Deputy First Minister, let's start with public services and particularly health. Health service in this part of the United Kingdom is probably the worst performing. It's got worse outcomes than the Republic. You put a lot of money last year into waiting lists. Is the problem that you've got here that Rachel Reeves is not giving you enough money, or that you're not using the money that you've got well enough?
Look, I think it's a combination of reasons. There's no doubt that we've got big challenges within our health and social care system. It is an integrated system in Northern Ireland, so of course pressures coming in particularly from social care, which is adding to the financial call in relation to the Department of Health on the overall budget. But there are also a number of other issues. We need to have that fundamental transformation of the way we do health. And of course that takes some time, that takes investment of money at the same time that you're trying to keep the money flowing to keep frontline services on the go. That's very difficult to do.
Are you getting the balance right? That you put 215 million in last year, but you're still in a situation where people, a high proportion of people are having to wait, 6 weeks, more than they should have to see a consultant. And now you're talking about more than doubling that figure. Is it just money, or is there something wrong in the way that you manage the system?
So, as I said, there's a combination of potential solutions that's being funded by this money. So it's not just those extra appointments. Just at the weekend, I visited a mega clinic for gallbladder procedures. These have been rolled out elsewhere. Really, really good initiative that drives down those waiting lists. We're also looking at things like multidisciplinary teams within GP practices and many other initiatives.
How difficult is it going to be for you and Sinn Féin to reach an agreement on a budget?
I think it's
Will you be able to do it?
I think it's going to be incredibly difficult because we don't have the same levers, for example, as Westminster have, but we will do our best. That is the challenge and the task that we have as the four parties in the executive to try to get that agreement. We're asking for Treasury to work with us on transformation, to work with us on flexibilities.
Last year, Ballymena and other parts of Northern Ireland had to confront some serious disturbances, which were said to be about immigration. And something similar is happening in the Republic. If Shabana Mahmood succeeds in shutting doors to Great Britain, do you worry that that might lead to new flows of migrants into Northern Ireland? Because there's some evidence that that's what happened previously.
Well, the scenes that we witnessed being played out on the streets of Ballymena last summer were absolutely disgraceful. The executive stood united in a very strong message against that. But we also recognise that the causes of this, in terms of social cohesion issues, pressures within the local system, trying to deal with that immigration issue across the UK. We want the UK government to have a sensible immigration policy, to get a grip of some of the immigration challenges. But importantly, what cannot happen is that the UK government puts in place a range of measures that only covers Great Britain and indeed leaves Northern Ireland very vulnerable to potential further or in fact increased abuse in relation to illegal or irregular immigration. So we need to make sure that Northern Ireland is included across the UK with whatever measures that the UK government is coming through with in terms of trying to control and to indeed eliminate that illegal and irregular immigration that is causing a challenge.
The government's pushing through legacy legislation, removing immunity from people involved in the Troubles. That must be right, mustn't it, to restore what looks like normal processes of justice?
Well, look, legacy has been an outstanding issue here in Northern Ireland. It wasn't resolved at the time of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement. And over the course of the last 26 years, it has been an issue of serious contention. We should always remember that 90% of the atrocities, the murders were carried out by terrorist organisations. I do think that there's been an attempt to rewrite history by having a lot of the focus in relation to the state, should that be police or should that be the army and others in Northern Ireland. The DUP has always been very clear that we oppose amnesty. But what we are also challenging the UK government to do is to make sure that it does stand up for and protect those people that they sent to Northern Ireland in very difficult circumstances.
So will you oppose the legislation as it's being put forward now?
Well, look, as we've said in the House of Commons, we believe that this legislation and the proposed changes is not the correct way to go about this.
Let me talk to you about the United Kingdom. You're a unionist. You come from a unionist tradition personally and also your party. We've spoken to both the Scottish and Welsh First Ministers in the last couple of weeks. Both of them held out the prospect that by the middle of this year, Belfast, Cardiff and Edinburgh will be led by self-declared nationalists, and in the near future, or the not too distant future, that could lead to the breakup of the United Kingdom. Do you worry about that? And let me ask you a very specific question. Let's imagine that there might be a United Ireland. Could there be a unionist politics within that?
I'm a very strong unionist. I believe that the best future for Northern Ireland is within the United Kingdom, and a strong United Kingdom. I believe that is also the case for Scotland and Wales. When we look across the globe at a time of instability, of a lot of concern and apprehension, a strong and United Kingdom working together, fighting together, defending together, I think is what serves all of our citizens better. You know, in terms of Northern Ireland, of course, we've got a very unique system in that the First and Deputy First Minister are joint roles. They are co-equal roles. That is part of the job that I do. And of course, I'm a unionist. We have a Sinn Féin First Minister. But I think it's important to say that in Northern Ireland, nationalism and republicanism haven't increased their vote from 1998, despite demographic change. They're sitting on in and around the same percentage that they had in 1998. I think those who want to see the breakup of the union do try to constantly get this momentum. I've no doubt that you will hear that again, because of course to serve their purpose is to try to get that sense of momentum towards that. That doesn't exist in Northern Ireland.
Lastly, if I may just ask you, you refer to the unusual way of governing here because of the history and so on. There is you, Deputy First Minister, and there is First Minister, and you come from very different traditions. But there are people who think that the fact that Northern Ireland is, let me put it this way, ruled by women, has introduced a different tone to the way politics works. Does that make sense to you?
Well, I'm not sure. I think women come in all different shapes, sizes and views. And of course, I've met some very robust women in politics. And, you know, I think certainly in Northern Ireland, it's such an unusual system. It is built around inclusion. It's built around consensus. And that is challenging because, of course, yes, I'm in this sort of co-leading the executive role with Sinn Féin. Two different political parties, not just on the constitutional question, but right across the political spectrum. And our challenge is to get that constant consensus. I know that people out there want to see delivery, and I think every day that's the challenge for us, to work together despite our political differences and really try to deliver for people.
Deputy First Minister, thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you.